Pokemon is primarily made for kids, right? I think we can all get behind that, even if you're a bit older still enjoying the IP. If Pokemon is made for kids, then strap in, because these pieces of the Pokemon franchise definitely aren't kid-friendly, so much so that they need to be censored. Hi, my name's Blaze, and these are the top 10 times where Pokemon need to be censored. In no particular order, starting us off at number 10 is quite the doozy, in the beloved Pokemon Stadium game. Now, you may be asking, Blaze, you wouldn't dare to attempt to ruin my childhood memories of Pokemon Stadium, would you? Yes, I would. And in particular, I would like to ruin your memories of Nidoqueen. Now take a look at Nidoqueen's animation we got here in the West. Nothing too crazy, right? Well, as for the version Japan got, all I gotta say is, yikes. Take a look. It's Nidoqueen shaking her moneymakers for all the stadium to see. In the original Japanese version, when Nidoqueen was summoned into battle, she would engage in a motion of grabbing and jostling her, assets. What a strange animation to include in a children's targeted game. Maybe it was included for all those dino Pokemon fetish fiends out there to get some adult business. Who knows? Like I said, this one was a doozy. Next up at number 9 is in a similar vein to the Nidoqueen from Pokemon Stadium. This one is pretty famous and revolves around everybody's favorite antagonist trio, Team Rocket, from the Pokemon animated series. The episode is Beauty and the Beach. The episode finds the group of pro tags enjoying a day at the beach. Nothing too crazy so far outside of a few snide comments about Misty looking like a real girl and a pervy old man oogling at her. Pokemon just loves these pervs, especially when Misty is involved, but you'll get to hear more about that later. Anyway, nothing of note happens until later in the episode where it is revealed that there is a girls-only beauty contest and the winner gets prize money. The group pushes Misty to join and win the money. She joins the contest but isn't the only one. James and Jesse from Team Rocket join also. Now, at this point, you may be asking, how James got into a girls-only beauty contest? Well, that's simple. James does the rational thing and puts on a woman's bodysuit, complete with his very own set of, buoys. It's very strange, sure, but it's borderline weird when he mocks Misty by groping his newfound flotation devices. This portion of the episode was cut for US audiences, probably for the best, and the episode aired only once in 2000, then subsequently never aired again. On to number 8. Here we have a what-if scenario. What if Pokemon had guns in it? Well, you can check out what that would be like by playing something like Pow World and that whole can of worms, but I'm not here to talk about that. I'm talking about the Pokemon IP if they allowed guns. Well, at one point they did, the Legend of Miniryu episode in the Pokemon animated series. This episode finds the gang exploring the Safari Zone in search of cool new Pokemon. The only thing they find is a gun-toting cowboy by the name of Kaiser. The episode goes off the rails pretty quickly as Ash gets a revolver pointed at his head by Kaiser. The frequent use of the gun prop by not only Kaiser, but is eventually brandished by Team Rocket is what left a bad taste in most Western censors' mouths. Thus, the episode never aired in most places outside of Japan. At number 7, we have another perv in the Pokemon franchise. What? Yeah, I'm not super surprised if I'm honest. There seems to be a running gag of having pervs in the Pokemon series, and this Pokemon card is no exception. The card in question is the Grimer card from the Team Rocket set. First off, here's the US version of the Grimer card. It depicts a Grimer sticking his head up from a manhole on a busy street populated by people going about their daily lives. Now, there's nothing crazy about this card, right? What if I told you that the pervy version of this card is almost an exact one-to-one to this card, except for one very minute change? That one simple change is the reason censors in the Western countries required thousands of reprints of this card. Well, here you go. Check out the Japanese version of the Grimer card. His eyes have changed from looking straight forward ahead to looking up at the skirt of the passing girl. Wow, what a crazy difference one little change to a card can make. It's crazy to think that this one little change could have been the difference in having a Pokemon card appear kid-friendly to a pervy nightmare for Pokemon. At number 6, we have a good old-fashioned drunk in a kids game. A bit less of a heavy topic compared to the last few, we have the drunk from the Pokemon Red and Blue games. We're talking OG Red and Blue from 1996. Now, alcohol depiction in kids games is usually a pretty big no-no, especially for Western audiences. The Japanese version of Pokemon Red and Blue include a man who is passed out drunk in Viridian City, causing a roadblock for the player to ensure that they don't venture too far into the game without giving Professor Oak his parcel. After which, the drunk says he's had his morning coffee and was able to move out of the way. For Western audiences, we received a version where it's a man who hasn't had his morning coffee yet, causing him to have a lack of motivation to move, and peeing the player until he has one. Two pretty different events, both of which saved through the nectar of the gods. Coffee. Perhaps the Game Freak employee who wrote this particular portion of the game was lacking in his daily dose of bean juice, which is why he let this one slip. Who knows? For number 5, we have Koga's Ninja Trick from the Gym Challenger set of the Pokemon trading card game. Nothing to see here, just a normal old Pokemon card with a subpar effect, nothing too crazy. And And oh, that's a problem. Yeah, the Gym Challenger set decided to include a symbol from a particularly nasty group of European people from the 1920s to the 40s. I won't be super descriptive because of YouTube's algorithm being very sensitive to stuff like this. Anyway, Pokemon decided to include this weird curvy plus sign on a Pokemon card. Or is it? Well, actually, the intent was for it to represent the Buddhist symbol for Manji, which signifies the Buddha's footsteps. We know this because of the way the symbol is facing. The Buddhist symbol has the arms of the symbol opening to the left-hand side, whereas the symbol representing a particular party in Germany is opening to the right-hand side and is angled. The symbol was bastardized by being associated with a particular sect of evil people, thus muddying the original intent of the symbol and demonizing it in the eyes of society. On to number 4, we have not one, but a few examples of Pokemon needing to be censored for not being aware of the context of their characters' actions. I know we said this is just 10, but there are a few different instances of this same action being performed, and we wanted to get them all in one segment. The action in question is related to the regime mentioned in the previous segment. When crowds would gather, they would perform a particular salute in commemoration to their leader. This salute, similar to the Buddhist symbol for Manji, has been demonized for its connotation to said group. And guess what? The Pokemon Company just so happened to have used the very same salute for Pokemon, and on top of that, Team Rocket! The Pokemon in question was Registeel in Diamond and Pearl. Registeel's sprite can be seen with only its left arm raised, reminiscent of the followers of a European dictator. The sprite was changed from his left arm being raised to both arms being down by his side for Western audiences. The second instance of this salute being used was by Team Rocket in the Pokemon animated series on the episode All Things Bright and Beautifly. In the Japanese version of this episode, we see not only Jesse, James, and Meowth performing this salute, but an entire mob of rocket grunts in front of them while the main trio's on a stage. Yikes! Not a good look, Pokemon. This version was quickly changed to have all grunts with their arms down, Jesse to have both arms up, while Meowth and James continue to have the same salute. Probably for the best that both these instances are changed. Before we get into the top 3, I just want to say thanks for watching. Both Indigo and I really appreciate it, and if you think our content is good, feel free to drop a like, subscribe, or even just a comment. We really appreciate you all, and let's get back to the video. For number 3, we're going to talk about one of the most infamous, widely known times Pokemon was censored. It has heavy racial contexts, which is why it resulted in a change as well as a ban from the Pokemon anime. As you may have guessed, the Pokemon in question is Jynx. Oh, Jynx, where do we even begin with you on this one? From the sprites in the early Pokemon games, to the animated series, to even the Pokemon card game, Jynx was an issue. Not just an issue, but a problem that sparked outrage from fans of the series. I think the best place to start with Jynx is when most attribute Jynx to being widely known as a problem, which began in the Pokemon animated series on the episode Holiday Hi-Jynx in December 1999. The episode has Jynx being one of Santa's helpers. No issue there, but the problem was her appearance. Jynx's original appearance depicted it with black skin and large red lips. After this episode aired, a woman named Carol Boston Weatherford wrote an article stating that Jynx, which was featured prominently in the episode, is a negative stereotype of African Americans related to the characters in the story of Little Black Sambo. The backlash was so strong that Jynx's design was changed in later media so that it had purple skin and smaller lips. The Holiday Hi-Jynx episode was pulled from rotation and is not believed to have aired since 2000. Though the depiction of Jynx should not have existed in the first place, I am glad that the Pokemon Company was swift with the change, but this blemish will be remembered in infamy forever. At number 2, we have a lesser-known Pokemon episode that caused its fair share of controversy. The episode in question is the Kangaskhan Kid. It's a run-of-the-mill episode of Pokemon. The gang is in the Safari Zone in search of some rare Pokemon, stuff happens, they run into Team Rocket, and they blast off. The end. Oh, and there's this little itsy-bitsy moment where a kid asks if he can suck on Misty's boobs. Yeah, that actually happened. There's a kid named Tommy who lives in the Safari Zone who shows up thinking the group is hunting Kangaskhan. After attacking the group, Misty approaches him. He then glances at Misty, which gives the audience a zoom in on Misty's chest as Tommy asks if he can suck on Misty's boobs. He subsequently gets smacked by Misty, but that's pretty crazy, right? The context of this is that he thinks Misty is a Pokemon, which implies that he has been fed by Pokemon in such a manner, but still, Pokemon just loves to sexualize Misty, who at this point is 10 years old. This episode was censored in the West to have Tommy ask if Misty was a Pokemon, which she smacks him for asking. A better change compared to the original, but not a great look for the writers of the show. Hopefully it's the last time we see Misty sexualized in this way. Oh no. Finally, at number 1, we have yet another instance of where Pokemon loves to sexualize Misty. She's 10 for Pete's sake. Let's lay off just a little bit, please? But no, this stretches all the way back to the Pokemon card game. In particular, to the Gym Challenge set. You know, the one with Koga's Ninja Trick card with a particular symbol on it. A great set, Pokemon, really. Anyway, I digress. The card in question is Misty's Tears. Oh boy, what a card. Nothing says kid-friendly card game than one of your child protagonists being depicted as naked with her beloved Pokemon. Yeah, there's no redeeming this one. They quickly changed the cards for releases outside of Japan to this version of Misty's Tears, but this card will forever be associated with the original. Like, did Pokemon have some sort of non-public pact with Nickelodeon or something? It's pretty crazy to think that this was widely released in Japan, and it's a pretty gross depiction of a lead protagonist of the series, which unfortunately hasn't stopped the Pokemon Company from doing similar time and time again. Well, that's all I had for you guys today. Man, what a wild episode. Pokemon sure has made its fair share of mistakes. Thank goodness the fans are pretty normal. Oh well, thanks again for watching. My name's Blaze, have a fantastic day, and I'll see you in the next one.